Again, I'm going to give it to the Historical Society. They did do a lot of work on it. And again, a lot of it from the work of the Historical Life of Indian and some plus things that I knew. Like my dad knew Ray Balloon. They were very good buddies.
Welcome everyone to our chamber luncheon for this month. Our food is ready, and since we have a very interesting speaker this afternoon, I would like to start sending tables up so that you can have your luncheon. So with that, would the speaker's table care to start the line?
Yep.
I sat here, I said, this would be the speaker's
Guess right.
No, I didn't pick. When did you get your greeting?
And just so that they're not alone with the fire chief,
Hey, I want to know how the fire chief got all those lovely ladies.
That's what they say. The uniform gets the women.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Skip Monick, and right now I'm currently sitting as the Uniform Fund Chairman, and he's the Band Booster President. And we have initiated a drive to replace the uniforms Wayne Memorial. I don't know if you've seen our group on the field or not, but if you have, you'll notice they have some very dull, ugly, threadbare uniforms we've been wearing for a number of years. And we've decided that in order to increase the pride that our kids have in the group, and also to bring more people into the group, we've decided that for many reasons we needed to bring new uniforms about. And this uniform that Dave's holding is actually it's the prototype of the new uniform. There'll be not too many changes with this uniform. The difference being, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the old uniform, but with the old uniform we had strictly a blue tuxedo jacket to go along with blue pants. This one incorporates a white tuxedo jacket with blue lapels. And yeah, it's just going to really have a nice look to it. And then of course the overlay that goes over the top strictly for marching. We went with this style because it allows us to bring all of the music department members into the fundraising, or into feel like they're all being provided for, because this uniform will be used by all the groups. It'll be used by the symphonic band, the concert band, the orchestra. All the groups that perform will be able to wear this uniform. So, you know, we're doing the drive not just for the marching band, but for the whole instrumental music department. And we try to make sure that everyone is aware of that, because while the marching band gets the most publicity and the most visual, of course it's for all the bands. And of course you see what it looks like with the overlay on top of it. It has a very nice look to it. This was designed by a special group comprised of band booster members, band parents, students. So we try to get everyone involved in this. And well, the choir's not in the instrumental music department. Okay, so they've got to do their own thing if they want to upgrade their uniforms. But that's what we've done as far as that goes. As far as what we're trying to do to raise funds, we're doing a number of things, fundraisers, and right now we are instituting what we call an Adopt a Uniform program, which means that for any donation of $250, and you'll be receiving a flyer during your meeting to illustrate what I'm referring to. A $250 donation will adopt a uniform, and we will affix a nameplate or a name tag on the inside of the jacket with your personal or business name that will be there for the life of the uniform. Also, let me emphasize that we'll accept all donations, obviously, because we have a lot of money to collect. but that will give hopefully you some incentive to donate enough money to adopt the uniform. Also, along with the uniform drive and a number of other things that we're doing, we are planning a golf outing for later on in the, I guess you'd call it early summer now.
Yeah, well, July 22nd.
July 22nd, yeah. And we'll be getting you some further information on that. But we want to come and show you our uniform and what we're doing with it, because I think it's going to bring a lot of excitement in the community. You'll see this on all the band members and parades, and of course football games, at our competitions, and we just wanted to show you what we're trying to do to uplift a portion of our community. Would you like to say anything? I don't know if I missed anything or what, but...
No, we're basically we're sticking, the marching band uniforms are always, Wayne's had a long time history in the music department. Some of the early directors of Wayne Nagwa, professors at U of M. With the music program being as long as it's been, we've always had a military background. The high school's got a military background behind it. So that's why we've kind of tried to stick somewhat with military design to stick with the school and the history with it. So this is just some of the backgrounds, but with the auditorium getting remodeled and the new music director, new uniforms, we look to really bring, I mean, the kids they're so excited about this now. It's the best I've seen them so far, yes.
If somebody wants to write a check or give you cash, where do we write a check to, Skip?
John, you'll be receiving a flyer here today. They'll give you all that information.
Cool. Okay.
And, along with the donation for Adopt a Uniform, we've broken it down to the different items that the uniform encompasses: the overlay, the jacket, the pants, and the shake or the hat that you don't see here today, but that's also included in the uniform.
Yeah, and along with these, sure.
Yes, I'm wondering, I'm thinking, for example, say that uniform there, if a student were to come in, say the 9th grade and through the 12th, now, would they be able to keep that uniform, or could they take that uniform with them? I really wonder if it wouldn't be nice
Do you mean on a permanent basis?
Yeah, they could keep it with them.
Well,
Because it'd be every 4 years, you know.
well, that would mean we'd be replacing uniforms, and
Yes.
at $250 a pop, it would get real costly to do that. Typically, bands buy their uniforms and they're kept for as long as they last, which is another thing that we have planned. Along with the cost for the uniforms, we're going to be buying clothes racks and garment bags so that these uniforms will stay in real good shape. Obviously, because they're white, they are very susceptible to stains. They're very susceptible to a number of things that will take away from the look of the uniform.
Because I'm wondering, like, say, if I were to sponsor a uniform, you know, and the student were to keep that uniform, you know, and now all of a sudden, you know, Joe Blow gets the uniform, and all of a sudden Jane Blow gets it 4 years later. So I just thought it might really be something that we could probably keep it going where a new student would get a new uniform possibly, where they, say if they had it for 4 years or 3 years, they could keep the uniform.
Well, part of the
Just a thought.
Yeah, and part of the problem we would have with that would be that it's not real practical to get new uniforms after they've already gone out of production with these uniforms.
Oh, yeah,
Once they stop production of the uniforms, it's a big process to get it going again. So that would be the biggest problem with that issue. But, yeah.
Well, since our marching band we're a competing marching band throughout the state.
Yeah.
So we compete against, like, Plymouth County won the Nationals this year. So we compete against some of the best in the country.
Yeah.
And the uniforms need to be 100% the same all across the board. So if you start going into different years of replacing it, then you get into different dye lots and it starts changing colors. So we stick with it. And it's, the uniforms we have now, we figured are 10 plus years old. And this is my first year as booster president, and I know the previous 4 booster presidents have tried a campaign to get this done and they never accomplished it. So just the workload involved trying to get this done, I'd hate to try to get them replaced every year.
Yeah, so there you are, okay.
Any other questions?
Right on.
So So thank you very much for allowing us to show you our uniform and talk a little bit, and we hope you'll be generous because we have a lot of money to raise, and just think of all the happy faces that will be wearing these uniforms in the fall, and we look forward to showing them off to each and every one of you. So if there are no more questions, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Uniforms, you'll have all the information at your fingertips. We'd like to, under new business, remind everybody to reserve your date in June for the golf outing. There's some scuttlebutt going around that the police department is going to challenge the firemen this year. I don't think, I don't know if it was, okay, it's all scuttlebutt. There is no real rumor that the police are challenging the fire department, and but they would be welcome to work out on our golf outing that will be coming up in June, where there's going to be a special promotion put on by the retailers in the community. It's called a VIP card promo. That's going to be bringing people into our stores, and they're going to be having a reason for keeping this special card. It's going to be coming into a store close to you shortly, and if you see how it works, you may want to get involved in that promotion for your business in the coming year. Among the people that you know, is there someone that you would like to sponsor as a member to our Chamber of Commerce? Someone else that does business maybe down the block, or someone that you buy from that you know you could use their good ideas in our chamber? Invite them to join our Chamber of Commerce and take the opportunity to actually enjoy lunch once a month. I mean, most small business people are grabbing a hamburger and eating on the run. Well, this is 35 to 45 minutes reserved just for you to talk to someone else that's also in business, that's having problems or having solved the problem, and you get a nice lunch out of the deal, and you get to relax for 45 minutes. Bring someone, invite them to join our chamber. At this point, I would like to introduce to you someone that really everyone in this room, I believe, knows by first name. He is our city manager, and he is going to speak for a couple of minutes and then introduce our speaker for the day. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Bill. It's my pleasure today to introduce the city's new community development director, Pete McInerney. As you know, Debbie Manns, our community development director for about 8 years, accepted the position of city administrator for the city of Southgate and began her new career in early March for the city of Southgate. And when Debbie told me that she was being considered for the position, and it looked like things were going well in the interviewing process, etc. As city manager, of course, you begin to think about, I have to make a replacement. I need to find someone to come in and take over. It didn't take a great deal of thought, to be frank with you. I've known Pete McInerney since the early 1980s. At the time we first met, I was the development director of Wayne, and he was the development director of Dearborn. And he contacted me relative to a consultant that was trying to get a contract in his community to do some work for the city of Dearborn, and wanted to know what I thought of working with Gerald Lukin Associates. And from that first call, there were several others, many others over the years, and lots of discussions about Michigan Avenue and whether or not to be one way or not, and the whole development process and what's going on in the state of Michigan, and our attraction to the auto industry, etc. Well, Pete moved on from Dearborn to the city of Wyandotte, where he spent 14 years there as its development director. And if you've been to the city of Wyandotte in recent times, you can see the fine work that the city council, and the mayor, and Mr. McInerney, and the residents of that community, the merchants of that community did. They've done some very, very fine work there. And he was my top choice, my first choice. I met with him quickly. We met in Dearborn, as a matter of fact, kind of split the difference, and persuaded him to come and join us. Pete has a undergraduate degree from Notre Dame. He was born and raised in Dearborn. Has a law degree from University of Detroit. After law school, like a couple of us, had public service on his mind, and spent a couple of years in Vista in the late 60s, early 70s, and then began a career in real estate with his father, a longtime Dearborn realtor, which led him into more public service work. Believe it or not, if there's a man on the staff in Wayne that has sympathy for you relative to your assessments, your taxes, your problems, it's Pete McInerney. As at one time he was the chairman of the board of review for the city of Dearborn. I think Dearborn recognized his talents, brought him into their staff, and from there it's gone. And he's only been on staff a little under 2 months now. I think he thinks it's 2 years, but it's only been a couple of months. And we're, as you know, a community that has a lot on its plate. And I needed to find somebody that could come in and pick up from where we are, rather than sort of start at the beginning again, train someone, break them in, etc., like Mr. Daly and Mr. Cullen had to do with me some 20 years ago. So in bringing Pete in, we could hit the ground running. Robert Perry is at the next table here, our city planner, is working with Pete. They make a fine duo. The two of them gang up on me from time to time. So I'm going to sit down now and let Pete tell you a little bit about his philosophy and kind of where he's coming from and what he sees here, and let him get acquainted with you a little and you acquainted with him. And I'm sure we'll have lots of contact, you will, with Pete over the years to come. Pete?
Thank you, John. I want to thank Councilwoman McCacker, too, for inviting me to speak to you today. My understanding of the time frame is about 1 o'clock on this, so I usually divide my speeches into 3 areas. I try to say something about development really gets divided into 3 areas, being sort of industrial, and commercial, and residential. And my background is such that really, from the government's perspective, I've done a lot in all 3 areas. So in the opening sort of comment about this starts with there's always a debate in economic development and in politics, really, sort of called the retention attraction argument, and what we should be doing with business and industry, and how do you really apportion your resources so that you're retaining existing businesses and allowing them to grow, and yet also at the same time attracting new businesses to the community. I think one of the occupational hazards is that people that have my job tend to get evaluated on the attraction side of things. I use the baseball analogy of signing the Tigers signed Juan Gonzalez, and he wasn't here, and he's brought here, so that's seen as a big plus. I mean, hope springs eternal, and I think that there's a certain amount of that, for a community. If somebody brings a business that wasn't in the community and they come to the community, that's seen as a success, and it is important, and we will do that. And I think we have to maintain a posture that new businesses are willing to come here and invest in the community. But for those of us who have been in the business, or those of you who follow politics and economic development, we know that actually the majority of our resources are spent on retaining the businesses who are already here. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One, of course, is just the commonsensical one. I mean, that the existing businesses, and mean, if the perception is that the government will, give away the store to bring a stranger to town, is that really the best use of resources? I mean, shouldn't we be trying to make sure that the existing businesses have all they need to be able to stay in the community and also expand in the community? So I think that we're always going to kind of face that. It's a kind of a two-sided coin about attraction and retention. I guess my ideal, and I'll leave you with this before I move on to my next point, but I guess my ideal would be that we wouldn't have to do too many things to bring a new business to town, that they would want to come because they understood how committed we were once they got here, that our main commitment would be to the existing businesses that were already here. People, of course, this is an easy speech to give to the Chamber of Commerce because people are already here. So that by treating these businesses well, that word would get out to the rest of the world, really. That Wayne will not do anything, necessarily to bring a stranger to town. But boy, if you go to Wayne and you open up a business and you have a problem, that's the kind of community you want to be in. They're going to work with you. They're going to care about you. They're going to do what they can to keep you there. So that's kind of my spin on the retention, attraction, ongoing debate. In terms of downtown, which is kind of moves into the commercial area, and of course downtown in Wayne has a large, fortunately, a large definition, because the Downtown Development Authority runs from city boundary to city boundary, both on the east and west along Michigan Avenue, as well as the north and south along Wayne Road. So there are obviously other commercial areas, but any downtown, I mean, this is sort of the front yard of the community, and a lot of people, of course, get their first image of a community by what they see downtown. So as we know, Wayne has been committed to downtown projects for a long time. I personally subscribe to a kind of a textbook approach to downtown economic development, which was kind of codified about 20 years ago, actually by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They kind of came up with what they called the Main Street approach. I've never actually worked in it. There are communities that actually adopt that approach formally and kind of pay money to belong to and have consultants come in and actually apply that in a strict sense. I've never actually done that. I don't think you need to. I think you can take the essence of what they're saying and apply it in your own community. And it's basically a four-pronged approach. The Main Street approach to downtown revitalization is that you have to look at organization, you have to pay attention to aesthetics, you have to do some economic restructuring, and you've got to promote the community. So I'm not really an expert in all of those areas. The organizational part of it, again, gets kind of adapted community by community. Certainly in Wayne, we have enough existing organizations, starting with the elected officials and then moving down through the other creatures of the city, like the Downtown Development Authority, as well as the private groups such as yourself. So there's enough organizations that obviously we've been able to make the progress that has been made downtown. In terms of the aesthetics, that's a real important issue, of course. It's not one of my personal strengths. I'm not a landscape architect by training, but I think everybody that can see the streetscape, that makes a real visual impact. I mean, it tells you a lot about the community. It tells you that this is a community that's willing to invest in itself. We wouldn't be expecting businesses to just come and make an investment if the people in the form of the municipal government aren't willing to make the investment. So I think that's clearly a billboard project for a lot of communities. As I said, I'm kind of walking my way through the four steps of the Main Street approach, the organization, and the aesthetics. The third one is economic restructuring. I do have quite a bit of experience with economic restructuring, and hopefully we'll be able to use some of my experience to help with that component of the overall downtown mix. There's a lot, basically you have downtown, you have the issue of the retail and the viability of the retail and how that can continue to compete, with other retail throughout the regional area. And the changing uses in downtown areas. Wayne has done things to maintain those other downtown uses, like the theater, and taking municipal control of the theater to keep that entertainment element downtown. In addition, you've got, of course, if people are not only going to come downtown to shop, you want people there who are hopefully living there. I mean, they'll be there, a number of hours if they live there or if they work there. So we've got enough of a mix in downtown Wayne and the other commercial areas that we'll continue to work on that mix and see what has to be done. In my experience, for instance, we had a case where there was a large furniture store was vacant, and that building was acquired and reconfigured into a different use. When I worked in Dearborn, I was involved in the reuse of what was originally the original Dearborn High School, then later Adams Junior High, is now an office building. So that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, where certain buildings that were built in the downtown area, need to change their use to help with the overall health of downtown. In terms of promotions and promoting downtown, again, not one of my personal strengths, but I think we're all in the business of educating and promoting the community at different levels. The city has, of course, a series of concerts at Gowdy Park, and there's certain specific things that the city has done traditionally and will continue to do, and those tend to bring people downtown and promote the community. We'll be, as an economic development department, we'll be doing our part to see what we can do to promote the community, and of course working with the businesses who are obviously always interested in promotion. So that kind of covers these briefly some of my thoughts on sort of the industrial retention attraction debate and the philosophy of downtown revitalization. I also have a lot of experience actually working in neighborhoods and things that aren't as exciting perhaps as revitalizing the waterfront along the Detroit River. But I've spent a lot of time just working with residents where the city has acquired an eyesore property, and it's not really large enough to be built on. You really don't want to cram a new house in there, and you're just trying to split 15 feet with one neighbor and 15 feet with the other neighbor. And we're all in politics in a good sense that we all have to work together to improve the community, and I've always been careful that, that 15 feet, sure, in some sense, it's not as exciting as possibly revitalizing the waterfront or doing a Michigan Avenue streetscape. But if it's 15 feet next to your house, if you're living on a 30-foot lot and you need that 15 feet to build a 2-car garage and get some cars off of the streets and get some adequate parking, then it's the most important 15 feet around. And I think that we were successful because we conveyed that to the residents. We never had a cavalier attitude that, well, you're just, we don't have too much time for you. We have to get on to the important issues. We learned, very quickly that, and we just believed, that everyone can picture their own house for one thing, too. And you can picture what it would mean to you if you needed to expand your property, even on a small scale. I've learned a lot about, how you can do development, how I'm thinking of, let's see my time here. Let me just say one more thing and then we'll go to some questions, I guess. We learned how to, I guess we never had the resources that we wanted or that you think, you could use effectively. So we figured out ways to make basically developers out of builders. We had individual business people who just wanted to build a house. That's all they wanted to do. Let me build a house, make a small profit, get in, get out. We turned them into developers. We say, no. This is the city, this is good. And we're not interested in that. We're interested in somebody who's going to build a house that we'll all be proud of. And you'll be telling people about the house you built, and we'll be telling people about the house you built. And it'll be a little billboard for this neighborhood and for this city. And we need you to start thinking that way. And we were successful. We also, as we made progress, we were able to take realtors. And are there any realtors here? By the way, I was going to ask that. Realtors. Okay. I'll save all my real estate speeches. But as John indicated, my father was a realtor for, he didn't tell you 50 years, but my dad was into it seriously for a long time and was very good at it. He's dead now, but he So I have that perspective of the realtor's perspective, which has really served me well as I've come to work for the government. Anyway, the bottom line I was going to say was in terms of marketing, we've had good success by turning builders into developers and turning realtors really into community promoters, or at least making it easier for them to promote the community. So that's some of my thoughts and background. Hopefully we'll get some questions, or I can keep going. It's kind of one of these accordion speeches. Yes, sir.
Just, I don't know if you have had the opportunity to look very far into it, but our DDA has been in existence now for quite some time. About how long before it will expire, or will all of those supporting captured taxes, how will they go back to the other taxing entities? Have we got 5 years left, or 10 years left, or have you had a chance to look at that?
I know that I have not completed my, review of all that, but I know that the DDA there were recent changes to the plan, both like in 93 and 96. So, I'm sure John could tell you everything about it, but, so it's a plan. Well, again, I think, the legislation was 1975, so there were no DDAs before 1975. The first was Detroit, and then many of the others began. I think Wayne obviously is in that first wave of DDAs. So after 20 years, I think it would be a good, obviously you always have to review these things, but my immediate take on it is that it has been reviewed, because it was amended in 93 as well as 96.
I was just curious if you knew when it would be...
Bill, some communities have formed their DDA around a particular project, and then when that project is complete, their task is over, and they kind of go back to what they were doing before they were a DDA. The way ours was set up in the early 80s, and the way it remains today, is that, as Pete described, our downtown development district spans Michigan Avenue from Merriman to Hannon, and Wayne Road from Glenwood to Van Born. And it was set up from the perspective of that it would not end. It would not have a finite point in time where it would go out of business because there was nothing more to do. Now, 20 years from now, possibly the city council, the residents may say, we've run out of projects. So let's not have an organization that has nothing to do. But as I was mentioning before Pete spoke, we have lots on our plate still. And so there was no immediate plan, or even in the mid-range future plan to call an end to the DDA. Our neighbor to the northwestland, however, is talking about doing that, sort of putting their DDA to rest.
I was more worried about the legislature saying that's it, it's cut off in 2005 and 2010, but that's not like...
The state of Michigan has not said DDAs can only go till 2000 and something, and then they must end.
Okay.
They can continue and keep going.
That answers your question.
Okay, well then I'll end blessedly early. Be happy to come back when I know more.
We appreciate your joining our team, and we work our players hard doing Luncheon. This is a high point in our luncheon, and we usually get the speaker to select a number.
Call my number, Pete. There's a big pot of gold in the office.
We have these federal gift certificates to pass out to number 528. Last three numbers, 528. Well, I hope you folks enjoyed your lunchtime as much as I did, and welcome to the city once again, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Oh, John has any more comments?
If I could, one comment. And many of you will get some information from Pete about it, but he's too modest to speak about it, and I'm not. I'm just going to talk. City manager, you let me talk, I'm going. Planting Day. We're going to be planting again this year in the downtown area. We recall last year we bought all new flower barrels and scattered them throughout the downtown development area. When you talked about the golf outing, it reminded me of dates coming up. Planting Day is the 20th of May, Saturday the 20th of May at 9 o'clock. If you come over to City Hall, if you're interested in helping plant flowers, it's a kind of a 2 to 3 hour commitment and would really be of help. Secondly, we're going to do Mayor's Exchange Day this year with the city of Ypsilanti, and Councilwoman McEachran and I and other members of the council and staff are working together on having the folks from Ypsilanti come and spend the day with us on Tuesday, May the 23rd. And the chamber lunch for May, if I may go farther, is going to be combined with the luncheon with the officials from Ypsilanti. And we'll be in this room on Tuesday, so your chamber lunch won't be a Thursday in May, it'll be a Tuesday. And in addition, the Rotary Club, who traditionally meet in this room on Tuesdays at noon, will be here as well. So if we have this crowd, plus Ypsilanti, plus the Rotary Club, what I'm trying to say is get your reservation in early, because we should fill the place up, and if you happen to be having to sit in the pond or eat your lunch on the bridge, it isn't that we didn't warn you, but we are going to take Ypsilanti all through our town and spend the day talking to them about development issues, police, fire, all the issues that affect municipal government, affect you. And then in 2001, we're going to be going to Ypsilanti for the day in May. The day hasn't been chosen yet. So I hope you can come and meet the officials from Ypsilanti and join in with the Wayne Rotarians, who do a lot for the community. Wayne Rotary's adopted 2 parks in town, and in addition to adopting Wayne Road and spending time cleaning up Wayne Road. Those aren't convicts, by the way, that are out there on Saturday. A couple Saturdays ago with those orange bags, they weren't working on last Saturday. Those weren't convicts. Those were your Wayne Rotarians. Thank you, Bill.
Then we stand adjourned. See you next month.
Nice to meet you.